Social engineering techniques and exploits. Learning outcomes. In this module, you will complete the following exercises. Exercise 1, Social Engineering. Exercise 2, Social Engineering Principles. Exercise 3, Reconnaissance. After completing this module, you should be able to perform DNS querying, use the harvester, identify live hosts on a network, perform discovery scans, perform port scanning, fingerprint a system. After completing this module, you should have further knowledge of phishing and its type, phishing method, phishing process, reasons for successful phishing attacks, social engineering motivation techniques, typo squatting, hoax baiting, shoulder surfing and tailgating, dumpster diving, spamming, spam, identity thief, invoice scam, credential harvesting, influence campaign, impersonation, eliciting information, reconnaissance terminology, tools used in reconnaissance, need for reconnaissance or footprinting. Exam objective. The following exam objectives are covered in this lab. Compare and contrast different types of social engineering techniques. Phishing, smishing, vishing, spam over internet messaging, spear phishing, dumpster diving, shoulder surfing, farming, tailgating, eliciting information, whaling, prepending, identity fraud, invoice scams, credential harvesting, reconnaissance, hoax, impersonation, watering hole attacks, typo squatting, influence campaign principles. Lab duration. It will take approximately 1 hour to complete this lab. Lab assessment. Test your knowledge on the topics covered in this lab by completing the lab assessment. Screenshot assessment items can be found at the end of each exercise, and review questions are located on the review page. Lab topology. During your session, you will have access to the following lab configuration. Depending on the exercises, you may or may not use all of the devices, but they are shown here in the layout to get an overall understanding of the topology of the lab. PLAB DC, PLAB DM1, PLAB Win10, PLAB Kali. Exercise 1, Social Engineering. Social engineering is the act of manipulating and utilizing human behavior to conduct a security breach, In social engineering, the victim who is being used as a subject for a security breach does not realize that he or she is being used. Users are considered to be the weakest link in the security chain and are easy to exploit. The attacker can use various methods in social engineering to gain sensitive and confidential information. The attacker can use methods such as sending an email or redirecting the user to a malicious web page. Several methods can be used, but each method intends to get sensitive and confidential information for a security breach. In social engineering, the attacker psychologically manipulates the victim and misdirects to obtain the desired information. Social engineering can be performed in various ways: over the telephone, in person, performing a task on a system. Social engineering can be considered as the base of mostly all types of passive information gathering techniques. The outcome of social engineering can be devastating with one user as a target in an organization. The attacker can perform a security breach of the entire network. It is just a matter of getting inside the network using the information provided by the user. There can be a various types of user who can be the target of social engineering. Some of the common targets are receptionists, IT help desk, HR department, top management. In this exercise, you will learn about social engineering. Learning outcomes. After completing the exercise, you should have further knowledge of phishing and its type, phishing methods, phishing process, reasons of successful phishing attacks. Your device. This exercise contains supporting materials for security. Phishing is a type of attack that uses social engineering as its base. It uses technical deception to convince a user to provide personal information such as passwords, social security numbers, credit card numbers, bank account details, and so on. In the phishing attack, the attacker creates a replica website or web page that tricks the user into providing personal information. The website or web page are real look-alike of the original website or web page that the user can get tricked. The URLs are close to the original, which users don't bother to check most of the time. One of the key intent of using phishing is for financial advantage. Phishing can also be used for getting personal and confidential information from the target. The attacker may simply use an identity which is legitimate. The attacker does not reveal his or her own identity. Using the legitimate identity of someone else, the attacker requests information from the target. The target may simply be convinced with the legitimate identity and provide the necessary information to the attack, which can then use this information for harmful activities. Generally, phishing takes place using email. An attacker would pose as an unauthorized entity and demand information in reply to that mail. Phishing can be conducted through various methods: in person, through malicious website, through email, malware attachment. Phishing and its type. There are different types of phishing. Some of the common one are smishing. Phishing is a type of phishing and is a social engineering attack that uses text messaging to obtain sensitive information such as account details. Phishing attack is another form of phishing and is conducted over voice over IP line where the attacker pretends to be the legitimate caller from the bank or financial institution. Using the phishing attack, the caller attempts to obtain the personal information such as bank account number or credit card information. Watering hole is a more complex type of phishing attack. In this type of attack, an attacker infects a website that is often visited by the target users. The website is infected with malware that is injected into the user system when they connect to the website. It is multiple phase attack in which the attacker first profiles the target, who are employees of the organization or a government agency. In the profiling stage, the attacker learns about the website these employees frequently visit. Then the website is infected with malware. When the user visits the website, their systems are infected. The majority of the phishing attacks are performed using emails and mostly in the form of spam. Phishers create database of millions of email accounts, usually from social networking websites, and then send email to this account. Over the years, spam emails have been well written and well designed, making them more convincing. Of late, along with messaging, spam SMS, and pick up its space on mobile phones. Whaling is another form of phishing and spear phishing. However, in whaling, the target is highly focused. Whale phishing is meant to target high-profile candidates such as the CEO or CIO in an organization, or maybe a well-known and established person such as film star. High-profile people have high-profile secrets to keep personal or business-related, which can be used against them. Remember, phishing is just another form of social engineering, and your convincing power play a major role. The attacker may create a sense of urgency in an email and force a person to click a URL embedded in the email. Let's take an example using whale phishing. You could get your hands on the executive's official email and official bank account credential. You cannot only approve momentary transactions but also perform them. To prevent whale phishing, you need to ensure that you build enough technical and detection control not only in the office, but they also need to be secure at home and when they are using mobile phones. Farming in this type of phishing attack, the user is redirected to a real look-alike website. When a user types the correct URL in the web browser, the user is directed to a real look-alike website. The user has simply clicked on the URL, which is not incorrect or wrong, but the attack has still occurred. This is done by DNS cache poisoning. The real IP address mapped to the legitimate URL is changed to an IP address to redirect the user to a malicious website, which is a real look-alike. The user will not be able to suspect anything here because the URL is correct. Spear phishing, unlike general phishing, targets specific individuals and companies. This entity could be an individual or several individuals. An attacker may target a top executive of an organization to steal information, and the spear phishing may be used to install malware on his or her system and eventually get into the network. The spear phishing emails are usually designed to look like they originate from a well-known company or a website. For example, a firm's top executive. You may receive an email from eBay asking you to reset your account password. The email includes URL to click to state that there have been an unauthorized login attempt and thus you should reset your password, otherwise your account will be locked. In this example, the email was designed to create a sense of urgency. Prepending is another type of spear phishing attack. It is a type of spear phishing attack using machine learning focused on social media accounts like Twitter. Prepending is an automated method to conduct the spear phishing attack. It goes through the user's post and make a note of the most commonly used words. Then it prepends the tweet from the user. There are links in this tweet that are added based on the user's engagement with the tweets. Phishing methods. 3 key methods can be used in phishing. Mass mailing. A large number of audience are targeted. It is quite likely that some of the audience are going to fall for this method. This method is usually performed using spam. Instant messaging. In the last few years, instant messaging is one of the key media in phishing. Malicious URLs are sent with attractive message to lure users into clicking them. Malicious websites. Phishing can also be initiated through malicious websites. Phishing process. Phishing is a 4-stage process. The stages are as follows. Initiation. The attacker prepares for an attack. Execution. The attacker sends out the mass mail or instant message to hundreds or thousands of users. User action. User performs 2 tasks. First, click the URL and the entry and then enters the personal information on the website that is loaded. Completion. The information that is entered by the user is received by the attacker and saved at his end. It is now up to the attacker to use this information. By the end of the 4th stage, the phishing attack is completed. In the phishing attack, the attacker can use various attack methods. Some of these attack methods are man-in-the-middle, session hijacking, phishing through the search engine, link manipulation, URL obfuscation attack, client-side vulnerabilities, cross-site scraping, malware or keyloggers or screen loggers or Trojan, emails, host file poisoning, DNS-based phishing, content injection. Reasons for successful phishing attacks. There are various reasons for a phishing attack to become successful. Some of the common reasons are as follows. Lack of knowledge. Users are not trained enough or are completely unaware of the dangers of phishing attacks. Attackers use this method on several hundreds and thousands of users at once, and several users fall prey to the attack. Visual deception. Attackers very smartly use a similar URL or domain name with the replica of the website. Users are deceived with the website replica without realizing enter their user credentials, which are then captured by the attacker and used on the real website. Visual indicators. Users mostly do not pay attention on the URL or the domain name and therefore end up being victim of the phishing attack. Exercise 2, Social Engineering Principles. An attacker may use different social engineering principles to gain information. For example, an attacker may show authority, such as acting as a representative from a law enforcement agency. Using another principle, an attacker may also create an urgency situation in which you may end up revealing the information. In this exercise, you will learn about different social engineering principles. Learning outcomes. After completing this exercise, you should have further knowledge of social engineering motivation techniques, typo squatting, hawks baiting, shoulder surfing, and tailgating, dumpster diving, spamming, spam, identity thief, invoice scam, credential harvesting, influence campaign, impersonating, eliciting information. Third device, this exercise contains supporting materials for security, social engineering motivation techniques. When using social engineering, an attacker has to use a method or technique to obtain the desired information. Various techniques and methods can be used by the attacker. Some of the commonly used techniques and methods are authority. The attacker shows authority by pretending to be from law enforcement or something similar. The attacker displays confidence in pretending to be someone with authority and pressurize the victim to provide information. For example, the attacker may call the reception and tell the receptionist that he is calling from the police department and needs certain information. Scarcity and urgency. With this technique, a sense of urgency is created, which forces the victim to make a quick decision without thinking much. For example, the attacker may call a user to share the password to be reset immediately or his account will be terminated. Social proof. Social proof is mostly used when the victim is in a situation that he or she does not know how to deal with. The victim decides by observing others. The attacker can apply this technique in more than one way by displaying an act that convinces them that this is the correct behavior. Fear. The attacker uses fear to make the victim do what they want them to do. The attacker dramatizes the situation in a way in which the victim is forced to act quickly to avoid a dangerous outcome. Intimidation. The attacker may simply intimidate or force the target into doing something of his choice. The attacker may use the impersonating technique to pull off intimidating consensus. In this method, the attacker may create malware or rogueware and put fake testimonials to convince the people to use it. People are generally more convinced if they are convinced that a lot of other people are using this product. Familiarity. In this method, the attacker becomes your friend. He or she shares the likes and dislikes with you when you convince that they are like you. The attacker may convince you to do something such as provide information. Trust. In this method, the attacker creates a trust channel with you. You start trusting the person and believe that he or she is the fallback point in case you have a problem. Once the trust is established, you are convinced to share the information that he or she is looking for. Typo squatting. Typo squatting is a method that uses real lookalike URLs. For example, if it is a google.com, the attacker may use similar looking URL, which is google.com. If you are not careful enough, you might end up clicking on this website, which is owned by the attacker. Such a website, it may simply deliver spyware or malware on your system. Real website, www.google.com. O type squatted website, www.google.com. G hoaxing, baiting, shoulder surfing, and tailgating. The following methods are commonly used in social engineering. Hoax. A computer hoax happens through the internet. The hoax attacker uses hook tactics to draw the victim's interest, warns the victim to dire consequences, and requests the victim to send the same message to many recipients. Shoulder surfing. Shoulder surfing is a social engineering attack performed by looking over the victim's shoulder to retrieve credit card number, password, or any other pertinent information. The attacker directly observed the information entered by the victim by standing very close or behind the victim, or uses vision-enhancing aid or binoculars to observe from far. Shoulder surfing attackers also use the techniques of fixing up closed-circuit cameras hidden behind the wall or ceiling to obtain sensitive information. Baiting. Baiting is an attack that uses CDs, DVDs, or USB drives. It does not use emails as the medium but relies on storage devices. Mostly USB drives are used in this scenario. The USB drives are loaded with the malware and placed in places where they are easy to find. For example, a user may find a USB drive in the parking lot of his office. When their user uses the USB drive on the company's laptop, the malware is triggered and infected the laptop. Through the laptop, and malware can eventually spread to the network. Tailgating. Tailgating is a social engineering act of gaining access to an electronically locked system or restricted area by following a user who has legitimate access to access vulnerability information. Tailgating is also known as piggybacking. Dumpster diving. Dumpster diving is another social engineering attack that uses physical method of accessing vulnerabilities information. Papers sent to dumpster or recycling bins from a company may contain highly sensitive information. Attackers screen those papers carefully to get valuable information. The attacker may target not only the papers but also electronic media or anything that can be used to them. Depending on the attacker can look for the following information: user's ID, password, phone number, email IDs, bank account number, critical process, and procedural information. As part of the penetration testing, you should look for the information mentioned above in a pile of papers that are considered junk. Users often print critical and confidential documents that are never collected and end up on a paper pile near the printer or in a dustbin. Another place to look for information is in the dustbin on a user's workstation. If you happen to find any critical information, you can suggest to the organization of the use a paper shredder. For hard drives, there are shredders available that can be used. Alternative, a data wipe can be performed on the hard drives before disposing of them. Spamming. Spamming is a unwanted email that is also known as unsolicited commercial email or unsolicited bulk email. Spamming is a method in which an unknown sender sends a large number of unsolicited and unwanted emails to thousands and millions of users. The spammers, people who send spam, use various sources to collect email addresses. Some of the sources can be addresses from website, customer lists, news groups, and social media websites. There are specialized tools available that can harvest email addresses from websites and the internet. Spammers can also purchase the email address list from people who sell them illegally. Some spam emails are commercial in nature and some are so lucrative that the user are forced to open them and click on the malicious link embedded within them. Spam is spam over instant messaging services. In present times, users use various instant messaging apps to send and receive messages. For example, millions of users use WhatsApp daily for personal and official communication. However, instant messenger like WhatsApp are also victim of spam. In most instant messenger apps, anyone can send you a message if they don't know your number unless you explicitly block them. You will likely receive spam which often contain unclickable links. Since spam occurs in real time, it's quite likely the user may click on the link embedded within the link. The links are often malicious and may simply download a backdoor or malware on the device. Often ransomware is also delivered through spam. Identity theft is not a new type of crime and has been in practice for many decades. Before the internet exists, this method was largely practiced by forging signatures. However, with the invention of computer and the internet many years later, the digital method of identity theft came into existence. In this method, a hacker steals someone's identity for personal beneficial or financial advantage. Millions of users are connected to the internet and the wide majority have entered their personal information on one website or the other. When you save your information on the internet, it may get exposed to a hacker if the site is hacked and its data is stolen. The hacker may use the stolen information somewhere else. For example, a hacker may create another user account using your credentials. The situation worsens if this account is misused for harassing and threatening someone or even conducting an unlawful activity such as stealing information. A hacker may steal identity information which could include bank account username and password, credit card information, driving license, email credential, telephone number, social security number, and other details that may belong to a user. Invoice scam. Attackers always have something new up their sleeves. They find better, intuitive, and interesting method to either gain information or fool the target with momentary scam. An invoice scam is one of the tricks that is used by attacking to extract money for corporate target. In this type of scam, the attacker sends an invoice to a victim, typically typically the invoicing department of the company, although it can also be sent to individuals. The invoice is raised in the name of an organization such as Apple, for example. The invoice contains the logo of the organization, name, address, and purchase detail. In reality, the target would have never bought anything. For example, the invoice may contain detail about an app purchase which the target never bought. However, in most cases, the amount is not big, and therefore many targets make the payment unknowingly without inspecting the invoice details. Credential harvesting. Credential harvesting is known under different terms such as account harvesting or password harvesting. In credential harvesting, an attacker may use different tactics to gain access to users' credentials. Phishing is one of the methods used for credential harvesting. For example, the attacker may simply send a phishing email with malicious links which, if clicked, can drop malware on the user system. Another method can be social engineering, using which the attacker can convince the target to provide user credentials. After the credentials are gained, the attacker can do one of the following: gain access to the system or the network, sell the information to others in the dark web. Influence campaign. Influence campaigns are designed to influence a specific set of people. Most often, the intention of an influence campaign might be a political motive. On the other hand, other motives can also include the intention of cyber warfare. In the present time, when social media has touched new heights, it is perfect weapon for influence campaign. Most people in the world use mobile devices which are loaded with one or other social media apps. Social media is often used to influence campaign. For example, Twitter might be used to launch an influence campaign. Tweets may be shared and linked in the millions. It is interesting fact that the more the news spread, the bigger its reach is with the audience. Some organizations will pay millions of dollars to push the tweets or posts to your timeline so that it reaches you. This has been known to be done on the global political stage, where some countries will influence social media to their benefit and sow discord during the election campaigns of other countries. Impersonation. Impersonation is the act of pretending to be someone else. In cybersecurity context, impersonating is using a fake identity. The impersonator is an attacker who shows a fake identity to the victim. If the attacker is wrongly identified as a trustworthy entity, then the victim is likely to disclose confidential information. This information could be password, information related to financial transaction, etc. This information can be used by the impersonator to perform a harmful activity. Eliciting information. Elicitation is a method that is used by an attacker to extract information from the target. The attacker extracts the information in a manner that the target does not know that they are providing the information. The idea is to strike a casual conversation with the target, and in between the conversation, several methods are used for information extraction. In the whole elicitation process, the target is unaware and keeps providing the information. The attacker may use various methods to extract information. Some of the key methods can be flattering. This is about praising someone who is your target. People often feel ashamed or of bragging about their achievement. It is quite obvious that when someone starts praising you, it opens the door for further communication. False statements. This is about making false statements to get the correct information. You, as the attacker, would have the statement about incorrect numbers, which is then corrected by the target. Artificial ignorance. It is triggering the target to educate them with the correct information. The attacker may just act ignorant about the topic of discussion, and then as human instinct grow, the target educates the attacker. Bracketing is about providing close to correct information to the target, who then gets concerned and provides the real number of information. Safe environment is about creating a safe zone for the target who can fall for it even if you are a stranger. You show support for the target's feeling and then extract the information as required. Exercise 3. Reconnaissance. Reconnaissance, also known as footprinting, is a method of collecting information about a target. It is the first phase and lays the foundation of the attack. With the discovered information, you can determine the attack surface of a target. The following could be gathered about the target using reconnaissance: basic information using web searches, location of live system on the network size, identification of open ports, and running services. Operating system version can be split into three parts: footprinting, collecting information about organization passively; scanning, using activity reconnaissance methods such as Nmap scanning to extract information about network and system; enumeration. After a footprint and scanning have been completed, you can use the information to find the area that you want to attack. For example, if the attacker finds out that a specific version of Apache is being used, then the attacker can narrow down the attack to exploit its vulnerabilities. In this exercise, you will learn about reconnaissance tools and techniques. Learning outcome. After completing this exercise, you should have further knowledge of reconnaissance technology, tools used in reconnaissance, need for reconnaissance or footprinting. After completing this exercise, you should be able to perform DNS querying, use the harvester, identify live hosts on a network, perform discovery scan, perform port scanning, fingerprint a system. You will be using the following devices in this lab. Please power this on now. PLAB TC1, PLAB DM1, PLAB Win10, PLAB Kali. Reconnaissance terminology. There is some basic terminology that an ethical hacker needs to know, including types of reconnaissance and footprinting. There are 5 types of reconnaissance: active, passive, pseudonymous, internet, anonymous. Let's discuss this in more details. Active. Using the active reconnaissance method, you directly interact with a system. For example, you can execute a nmap command to collect information about the open port. Active reconnaissance can include the following method: IP or port scanning, operating system scanning, footprinting of existing service in a system, zone transfer on an internal DNS server, spidering the public web page, causing social engineering. Passive is the opposite of active. You do not interact with the system inside. You use various methods such as a web search to find information about the target. Can use some of the following methods: search the WHOIS database, browse through the target's website, perform social network scraping, search Google or any search engine, extract the DNS information, review blogs, public forums and websites, search rich database and dark web about the target. For example, the WHOIS databases is a good start to gather information about a domain name. You can simply visit the whois.net website and enter the URL for the domain. The outcome is displayed as shown in the below exhibit. An organization's information may be available on the dark web, which is also known as the dark net or the underground internet. The website on the dark web does not appear in search engine. You need a special web browser such as the Ion Research Project, or most famously known as the Tor web browser. These websites have onion extensions and are considered gold mines for hackers. It is quite possible that you can get some information about your target. Pseudonymous. In this method, you collect information that is published by the target under a pseudonym or pseudonym. The target uses this name so that the information about him or her cannot be traced back to them. For example, a group of hackers uses pseudonym Anonymous. No one knows who they are, as their real identity is concealed behind the pseudonym. Internet. In this method, you would use the internet to collect information about the target. For example, you can use Google Hacking Database to find the information that is otherwise not visible in normal searches. For example, it would be difficult for you to locate a website that has exposed password in the URL. To do this, you can find the search term in GHDB, which contains thousands of search terms that can help you exploit certain vulnerabilities. Let's look at the following terms. When you search for this term in Google, here are some results that you get. Notice that the search list is an astonishing number of 89600 websites that have expired their password in the URL. Anonymous. You will collect information anonymously. You would use this method when you do not want someone to trace you. For example, there are several free VPN tools available that allows you to surf the web anonymously. You can even use search engines like DuckDuckGo.com to surf the web without leaving any privacy trace. Tor is one example that can be used to surf web anonymously. It uses DuckDuckGo.com as the default search engine. Tools used in reconnaissance. Various tools can be used for footprinting. Some of the key tools are Whois queries for domain name, NSLOOKUP queries DNS, FOCA enumeration for users' files, folders, and OS information. The harvesters, information gathering for an email addresses, subdomains, hostnames, banners. Sodan information search engine using metadata. Maltego information gathering, reckoning, web reconnaissance, Census search engine for information about device of the internet. Kali Linux also include reconnaissance of footprinting tools under different categories, which are DNS analysis, IDS or IPS identification, live host identification, network and port scanner, OS INT analysis, route analysis, SMB analysis, SMTP analysis, SNMP analysis, SSL analysis. The DNS analysis category includes the following tools: DNS Enum, DNS Map, DNS Recon, DNS Tracer, DNS Walk, Fierce, URL Crazy. The IDS or IPS identification category includes the following tools: FrogRoute, FrogRouter, Ftest, LBD, WAFU, The live host identification category includes the following tools: RPing, CDPS, NARP, FPing, HPing3, Mascan, Miranda, NCAT, THC, Ping 6, Unicorn Sun, Wolf E, X4B2. The network port scanning category includes the following tools: Mascan, Nmap, Unicorn Scan, ZenMap. The OSINT analysis category includes the following tools: Automaker, Maltego, The Harvester, Dwoofy, URL Crazy. The route analysis category includes the following tools: OTrace, InTrace, AirPass AS, AirPass CDP, NetDiscover, NetMask. SMB analysis includes Inium for Linux, NBT Scan, SMB Map, SMTP analysis, SMTP user Inium swap, SNMP analysis includes BRAA16 SNP check. SSL analysis includes SSLaudit, SSLDump, SSLH, SSLScan, SSLZ, TLSSLED. Name for reconnaissance or footprinting. Without footprinting, it would be difficult for a hacker to break into a system or network. Therefore, hackers spend a significant amount of time gathering information about the system or the organization's network. Based on the collected information, hackers build their hacking strategy and execute it. As an ethical hacker, you gain the following benefits when you perform footprinting. Understand the security posture. When you footprint an organization network, you can gain information on the security device, the level of defense, and much more information about the security implementation. Based on the information that you collect, you build your attack accordingly. For example, you can understand the organization has single-layered security such as a firewall or defense in depth which contains multiple layers of security devices. Reduce attack area. The attack area is the target system or network that you want to exploit. It is always better to reduce the attack area so that you have a more controlled attack. Attacking a larger area is the easier trace, so the organization has more of the chance to stop the attack. You can reduce the attack area to the network subnet, a specific domain, or an individual system that is directly connects to the internet. Collect maximum information. You may be able to gather much information. Once identified and analyzed, this information can help you generate your database about the security weaknesses of a target system or network. Based on the weaknesses, you can prepare your attack to break into a security perimeter. Draw network diagram. Using the footprinting method, you can collect information and generate a network diagram which can help you understand the network layout. For example, you can run the tracer tool to find the path from a system to a target system. A network diagram gives you the clarity on how systems are placed on the network. For example, you can find whether the internet-facing servers are placed on the same network or a separate network, such as the demilitarized zone. Task 1. Perform DNS query. Ring NSLookup is a network administration command line tool that is primarily used to query the domain name system. Using this tool, you can obtain the domain name or IP address mapping. To use NSLookup, perform the following step. Ensure that all the required devices are powered on. Connect to PLAB Kali. In the enter your username text box, type the following. In the menu bar, click Terminal X Emulator. The terminal window is displayed. Type the following command. Note that the IP address for the domain practicelabs.com is displayed. The first two lines of output specify the server to which the request was directed. This is the default server of DNS name resolution. The second section provides the name and the record and its corresponding IP addresses. In this example, the DNS server in 192.168.0.1, the record for practicelabs.com is also mapped to the same IP address, 192.168.0.1. In the real-world scenario, you are likely to get both of them to be different IP addresses. You can also check for the specific record. For example, to check for a record for practicelabs.com, type the following command. Note that the IP address for the domain practicelabs.com is displayed. You can use the type equals SOA obtained to tell NSLookup to display the authoritative name server. Note that there is no indication of this of when the records are going to expire. However, if you attempt to execute this command on a live server on the internet, you will get the answer. The internet server does not provide complete details. You can also use the MX record to map a domain name to a list mail exchange server for the domain. For example, MX record provides the details of the main server to which all the emails are sent for the proxystops.com domain. Since there is no mail server for this domain, notice that this command fails. The NS record maps a domain name to lists of the DNS server that are authoritative for this domain. Since there is only one DNS server, it is now listed as the response to the command. You can perform domain name resolution using the specific DNS server. Notice the list details as the output of this command. You can also change the default timeout to wait for a reply using timeout option. Observe the output of the command. You can view all the available DNS records using the negative query equal any option. Notice the list details as the output of this command. Task 2. Use Recon is an open source framework that is developed in Python. It is mainly used for reconnaissance and information gathering on the internet. It provides multiple modules for reconnaissance and information gathering. These modules are divided into multiple categories such as auxiliary, contacts, host, output, and PWNet list. By default, these modules are not added to the current version. You will have to get this module from the Record Marketplace and install them. Ensure you have power on all the devices listed on the introduction and connected to PLAB Kali. On the desktop, click Terminal. Notice that the record tool is now invoked. Notice the message state that there are no module loaded. This means that you need to first load a module to perform a task. Without a module, you cannot perform any action. You can start by listing the command that you can use in your codename. Type the following command. Notice that the commands are now listed. Let's first install a module. The hacker target module is now installed. The source is now set. Notice the output various subdomains with their IP addresses are revealed. Task 3. Use the harvester. The harvester is an information gathering tool. By providing a domain name and search engine name, you can search the following information: email account, user's name, host name, subdomains, banners, depending upon the following available on the search engine. The harvester will fetch the required details for you. The harvesters perform the following step and the command is now executed. It is able to locate email addresses and number of hosts. Several hosts are now located as the result of the harvester command. Task 4. Identify live hosts on a network. Network mapper, more commonly known as Nmap, is a network and host director discovery tool. It is one of the most widely used tools for various activities such as discovering host services and ports, fingerprinting, operating system enumeration, discovering vulnerabilities on the location and remote host, find the IP addresses of a remote system, Using Nmap you can scan for targets in the following ways. Scan for a single IP Nmap 192.168.0.1. Scan for host by using its name Nmap host1.plab.com. Scan an entire subnet nmapplab.com or 24 Nmap 192.168.0.0 or 24 Nmap 192.168.0. Scan for the range IP address Nmap 192.168.0.1 to 10. Scan for range and a system outside of the range Nmap 192.168.0.1 1.10. In this task, you will use Nmap to identify the live system on a network. To do this, perform the following tasks. The output of the following command is displayed. Notice the several hosts were detected, including Philip Kali. Along with this, the gateway IP 192.168.0.250 is also found. You can also perform a scan the output of the following command is displayed. Notice that without the ping scan, it has detected several items network. Notice the output of the command in the output the hops from your system to the system on the network are displayed. Since this is within the same IP subnet, there is a single hoop. The output also displays open port on each live system. The output of the following command is displayed. Notice that only 4 hosts are listed in the scan without any parameter. The Nmap command scans for the live system and open ports. Notice the output of the Nmap command with this asterisk is that search for all live systems in the subnet of 256 IP addresses. Task 5. Perform discovery scan. Discovery scan is used for locating live hosts on a network. There are There are various methods that can be used in Discovery Scan. Some of these are using ping scan, using ARP scan, using a port scan. In this task, you will learn to perform different types of discovery scans. To do this, perform the following steps. Notice that the output of the command when you execute this command, it sends an ICMP request message to every IP addresses. The hosts that respond to the ICMP request message are considered live and are listed in the output of this command not listed or do not respond. Notice the outcome of this command. The nmap command has scanned 256 IP addresses with the negative PR parameter and found 7 hosts live. Notice that open ports are also listed. The output of this command is this way. Notice that the 7 hosts are scanned, but one host 192.168.0.2 is running a web server. The output of this command is display. Notice that the several holes were found. Task 6. Perform port scanning. Using the port scanning method, you can determine the TCP or UDP port that is being used. You can either scan for the entire range of port from 1 to 65535 or scan for specific ports. When scanning for ports, you need to be aware that there can be different states of a port. Open an application is listening for connection of this port. Close the message were received but no application is listening on the port. Filter the message were not received and the state of the port could not be determined. The state occurs when some of filtering is being used by the port. Unfilter the messages are received but still the state of the port could not be determined. Open or filter, the port was either filtered or open, but Nmap was unable to determine the state. Close or filtered, the port was either filtered or closed, but the Nmap was unable to determine the state. To use port scanning, perform the following steps. The output of this command is displayed. Notice that 190.168.0.2 has several ports open such as 80, 139, and 3389. The output of this command is displayed. Notice that the state of the port is set to filtered. Notice that the command has been executed successfully. The output displayed that there are 98 filtered ports and two open ports which are 53 and 88. The output of this command is displayed. Notice that the output of this command is different than the previous command. It shows filtered ports and 8 open ports. The output is different because the fast scan uses the most common port. Notice the output. This command has scanned 1000 ports. There are 987 filtered and 13 open ports. Notice that the top 10 used ports are listed as the output with their current state. Task 7. Fingerprint a system. Fingerprinting is also known as a banner grabbing. With fingerprinting, you can determine the type of operating system and its version on a remote system. It can also be used to determine applications such as web server. There are primarily two types of fingerprinting: active Nmap contains a list of the operating system. When you execute a command to determine the operating system to a remote host, packets are sent to remote host and the response is received, which is compared with the list of operating system. Nmap then provides the closest match. Here are some Nmap commands for OS fingerprinting. To fingerprint a remote system, type the following command: nmap -0 192.168.0.6. The -0 parameters provide more options for operating system detection. You can choose to skip the hosts that are not up and running and scan for the operating system only on the live host. To do this, type the following command: nmap -0 oos-scan limit 192.168.0.0 or 24. You can also use O-scan guess option with the -0 parameter. It will attempt to detect the operating system. If it is not available to do, then it will provide the closest signature possible. It performs an aggressive detection of the operating system. To do this, type the following command: when you perform an operating system scan, Nmap by default attempt 5 times to detect the name and version. However, the speed of the process, you can limit the number of attempts. To do this, type the following command. You can also use a -a parameter with the nmap command to perform fingerprint. Passive fingerprinting can be done in different ways. For example, you can get many details from the error messages, which can contain information such as the type of operating system and server. Sniffing network traffic can also help determine how long the web server has been up and running. To find out the duration of which the server is running, perform the following steps. Other than Nmap, you can also use another tool named POF for operating system fingerprinting. It is a good tool to find out the details of a web server. To use the POF tool, type the following command. So, notice that the POF tool has started but not doing anything. It has 322 signatures that are kept in the Chatterbox of the FP file. Next, you need to open a website. Click the application icon, then select web browser. Notice the default internet website is loaded. Close the Firefox window. Notice the P0F has started to capture a lot of data. Press Ctrl C. Stop. To stop the P0F tool, it has captured quite a bit information. The operating system is Linux. Scroll up and notice that it has also determined the